Hello and welcome back to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video, I want to help you answer any English exam question. The reality is, many times over, in any subject, a teacher will say, just answer the question they give you. And that implies that you just couldn't be bothered to answer the question, when the reality is, you're trying really hard to put the question under the spotlight when you're in the constraints of an exam. Your mind might be rushing when you need to slow down. There's a temptation to pre-rehearse an answer as opposed to breaking down what's in front of you. And in part, that's because you wish the question you want to answer was the one that was in front of you. And the reality is, for most of the English exams you will sit, there is a broad structure that you're familiar with. So it's tempting to pre-rehearse an answer that you think could come up. This video, though, is designed to help your mind feel a little more clear on exactly what the difference is between key words. Key words that command you in the exam to do certain things. So this video is designed to break it down, but also give you that level of clarity so that at any level you are able to unpick exactly what the examiner wants and ensure that you answer accordingly. So let's kick off with describe. A typical question is, describe a time you felt alone, and you can't just write in this exam. Describing something is when you inform or tell someone about something, but that sounds a bit vague when you're talking to an examiner. All you need to do to describe well is try and paint a complete picture through the language you use. There needs to be a level of intentionality around the choices of words that you use in your writing. Using the senses and show don't tell is a great way of bringing to life the details that help the experience of the writing seem vivid. I have videos on both show don't tell and senses to help you ensure that your descriptions are clipped. Next up is how, and you'll notice in brackets I've put explain. A typical question is, how has the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader? Now, in literary terms, when somebody says how, they want examples from the text that show your reasons why something is important. So in order to do a how question well, you need to link the points you're making to the examples that match your ideas in the text. You need to explain how it's relevant to you as a reader. You need to question why a writer might have chosen to include this feature. Ultimately, you need to show and ensure that you show the consequences of how the point you're making is backed up by an example in the text and provide reasons why it is important to your argument. So how is more detailed. It's the mechanics of how the writing has been crafted. It's not just saying, oh look, there's some alliteration there. You have to be able to give your reasons to nail it. Next up is examine. A typical question in English might be, examine the view that Priestley is pushing a socialist agenda in an spectacles. If I'm examining something, I'm inspecting the issue or the idea that's shared, and I'm giving my view on what I have seen. So to do well in this kind of question, you need to be seen to investigate critically. You need to offer your view with evidence from the text that's arguing your view logically. You're offering your view as an expert here. It's also important to note at GCSE and even A-level, when they're saying examine, you can offer both sides of the argument. You just cannot be seen to totally contradict. That means go against your major view. But it's about detail with examine. It's not just about saying what happens, but how that informs your opinion. Analyse. Now this is a hidden gem that is unlocking the key to huge amounts of academic success within English. Unfortunately though, it's a word that's not referenced in the exam question, just extremely heavily in the examiner's mark schemes. Typically something like this, analyse the effects of the writer's choices of language. That's found across GCSE and A-level specifications and mark schemes at the top band. So to analyse is to examine something in detail, offering your interpretation. And to do this well, you're going to need to break down evidence into small parts where you refer to your examples by suggesting how a device operates well or how a trend that you've spotted is relevant, and you're providing a detailed explanation of how. You have to consider your opinion as a reader and how other readers might view things, but also bring in the writer. Why did they do this? Like all the videos that I'm referencing, I have a video, for example, on analysis that I think could really help you if it's a skill you're struggling with in your writing and push you into a 7, 8 and 9 if you're at GCSE, or beyond that to get you your A star at A level. I'll put them all in the description box below this video so that you can actually refer to them for your own perusal. Next up is compare, and it's a word that commands authority but commands fear, surprisingly, at all levels. A typical question would be something like, compare how poets present attitudes towards a parent in said poem and one other. Comparing is simply sharing how something's different or similar. To do this well, try and simplify your thinking. Find linking features or devices that are similar first, and if you can, identify the differences that are found in each of the texts that you're looking at too. You're meant to give examples that are specific, and the more specific they are to a device or a linking idea, the better your grade will be. As with any analysis, you're bringing in the effect on the reader, the writer's intentions, and you're always offering whether they're similar or different. So as a consequence, you need connectives that show the connection. If they're similar, you're saying things like both, equally, additionally. And if it's different, you're saying things like in contrast, on the other hand, or on the contrary. Evaluate. Now this is a skill that is most high order in your thinking. A typical question would be something like, a critic of the novel claims Scrooge as a figure of redemption. Evaluate to what extent you agree. Now evaluating something is when you weigh up if you agree with someone else's view or an idea that's shared in a statement. To do this well, you need to have your own view. You need to give examples that prove your view as precisely as possible and as cautiously as possible. You're linking back across your response to a statement that's been given. You're weighing up logically if you agree or not with the statement. So that sometimes means offering one line of argument and then referring to what others might think. Evaluating is a really impressive skill because it shows you've thought about more than one perspective if you've done it well. Finally, summarise. Now this should be a breath of fresh air, but I'm just going to share with you a typical question and explain why I've needed to include it in this video. You need to refer to both source A and source B for this question. Use details from both sources. Write a summary of the differences between them on childhood. A summary should be breezy. It's you simplifying the major ideas of a text or view that someone has. However, there are some pitfalls that people waste their time on at any level. You should be keeping it quick and brief. You should be sharing the big ideas. You shouldn't be sharing quotes. You shouldn't be wasting your time adding too much depth. In summary, for this whole video, understanding what you have to comment on is the key to doing well at anything. I hope that these command words are things that you'll come back to and revisit. Watch this video more than once if you need to, because understanding the nuts and bolts of what is demanded for each of these keywords definitely is the deal breaker for doing well and reaching the dizzy heights of your own academic success. I hope it helps you, and I hope you nail it. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?